Conleith an easy enough win here for Derry to kick off their championship, a 12-point win against Fermanagh?
Yeah, it was, and it was a difficult task for Derry coming in here because they'd have been expected to win, and I think probably they get out of it, relatively easily compared to, what it could have been.
Not much of an atmosphere, I thought. I was coming here thinking championship feeling. I was buzzed up for the game. Not really what we would have expected.
No, and I think probably Derry played their part in that. They silenced any Fermanagh support that was here early on. They went 3-4-0 ahead, and then they could play the game at their terms. So I think Derry done everything that you would expect of them, especially since they were playing against the breeze, and I think that probably broke Fermanagh's resistance early on.
Yeah, big time. I think it was that fast start, 5 points without reply, and they did it at such a pace as well that it sort of just knocked Fermanagh stuffing out of the game.
Yeah, right from the throw-in, obviously Owen McKaigue was marking Dara McGurn, who was their top scorer. Owen McAvoy's championship debut, he races up the field and he scores the first point of the game on his debut, like a dream debut. I thought he was exceptional throughout. McGurn was their top scorer with Quigley not here, so he took him completely out of the game, and he added a wee bit of value at the other end. And I thought for a young lad of 19, I thought it was such a mature performance from him.
And coming into the game, to lose someone like Sean Quigley, I was just speaking there to Kieran, their manager, and to have someone like him who's so influential to be ruled out last minute, that's massive as well for them.
Yeah, it is. Like he's kicked 310, he's their top scorer, even though he only started 2 league games, and that just shows how influential he is. Whenever Fermanagh needed that bounce off the bench today, they didn't have that, and in the second half they battled really hard, but outside of Ulton Kelm, they didn't, and obviously Shea Cullen got 2 brilliant goals for a full back, which is incredible, and he did a great game, but I just thought it was just going to be difficult because the rest of the forwards just couldn't get into the game because Derry were so dominant in that area.
Going in at half time, it was 10 points up for Derry. Even at that, they were running into the dressing room. Rory made them run in, each and every one of them, and they came out again and kicked on. But Fermanagh did come into the game, and there was moments of improvements for them, especially with the Shea Cullen goals.
Yeah, well, like at half time, the game probably was over for everybody else here, and it was a case that Fermanagh now had a half to try and salvage something from the game so that they could bring a wee bit of momentum into the Tailteann Cup, and definitely they done that. They kicked on, they got a couple of goals, which give them a wee bit of hope. But the fact is, after Shea Cullen's first goal, a great kick out from Oran Lynch, and it was one pass in, Benny Hearn gets pulled down for the penalty, and it just really broke their heart, and that's what Derry have, their pace, their power, just their chemistry up front. They were just so much further ahead and played towards, they're a Division 1 team, and while next year it'll be Division 1 and Division 2 for Fermanagh, but you could see that gulf in class in terms of their physicality and their speed and their pace and power, and it's not necessarily down to skill, but that's what separates teams at the top divisions and anything below them.
Yeah, it's Derry's system as well. They play, everybody pushes forward, everybody gets back. It's a running game, fitness levels have to be high to be able to play that type of game. What would it be like against maybe the better teams? They got caught once or twice getting back there, and they got in for a point for Fermanagh. But I did think at times, against a better team, they could be caught here.
Well, the big worry is for a second game in a row, Conor Glass goes off and Derry start conceding goals, and maybe it's just a coincidence, but I think he plays such an important role at the top of the D. Whenever he played in the first half, Derry looked really secure. The minute he went off, the 2 goals went in, and he limped off maybe a wee bit. Maybe it was precautionary, but the fact that both himself and Chrissy McKaigue came off, whether it's precautionary or not, they're 2 players that Derry need. Chrissy probably needed that game. He hadn't played for quite a while. So I think when you come into that next game against the Tyrone Fermanagh, you need to be very close to your best. You need a Chrissy McKaigue very fit. You need a Conor Glass flying, and then everybody else doing their job in around that. But that'll be the one worry when Derry look back at that, is how vulnerable for the second game in a row they looked when Conor Glass went off.
And Chrissy McKaigue, he's always brilliant, but I really thought he was struggling out there today. He put his hand up a few times, signalling to the sideline, that he wanted to go off. And it looked like he was really carrying a knock of some sort, maybe the ankle injury that he's had previously. So you'd really worry about him going forward. Yeah, you would. One time he came down and he did look like in a wee bit of distress, and the physios were out with him, and then he wanted to stay on. And when you are short of match practice, Ulton Kelm, he's one of those players that has pace that's at a different level to a lot of players. He's so powerful, and a couple of times he showed that. But I thought in the second half, once Chrissy had got the grips with him, he kind of got him, under wraps. Albeit Kelm did look like the one player that had the pace and power to unlock that Derry defence, but there just wasn't enough support around him on a day like that. But look, to be fair, credit to Fermanagh in that second half, they have something now to build to. They've got promotion, they've the Tailteann Cup to look forward to,
when you hear by talking to some of the players and some of the interviews after it, it's something now that they're going to target, and I think that's really important, because in other years you either go into the qualifiers or your championship's over. Now they have something really meaningful to go for, and you've seen what happened Westmeath last year, and I think it's a competition that Fermanagh would really benefit from.
Yeah, absolutely. More games, and it's only going to see more improvements. And Kieran was just saying that there when I spoke to him. One thing he talked about was Shea Cullen and those goals from full back. Thankfully they went in because they needed that bit of, urgency from them to keep going here today.
And like a lot of times, we give teams, a lot of, negative talk because they sort of went too defensive, and ultimately today, Fermanagh went really high on the press to try and stop Derry's runners through the middle, and obviously it didn't work because it left the full back line exposed. But you could criticise that, but I would say there was in the front foot, they had the breeze and they did go for it a bit. But again, teams like Derry, you just get caught, and their +1 was just a wee bit too high at times, and they'll learn from that, because a championship match against sort of top end opposition, every wee mistake you make, everything that's wrong with your setup really gets exposed. And I think Fermanagh, while it's disappointing today, I think they'll be better for the experience.
Absolutely. And previous to last year, they'd won their first Ulster for the first time in 24 years. So now they are the hunted, as you'd like to say, for this Ulster Championship, when before they maybe would have been underdogs in some capacity going in, but now it feels like they're real contenders for this Ulster.
No, it is, and they're very consistent. They play a very similar team. They play the same style. There's going to be no shock. So the one thing that every Derry player is very comfortable when subs come in. While it didn't look like that today's stages because they conceded the goals, it is a wee bit seamless. So whether it's Monaghan or Tyrone the next day, they'll know how Derry's going to set up. Derry don't go for all the fuss of dummy teams and things like that. It's just they're saying this is how good we are. It's up to you to come and break us down. And I think it's going to lead to a very interesting latter end of the Ulster Championship, because it's still the one championship that really matters to all the teams in it. And will you talk about Munster and maybe in Connacht, Mayo was talking about maybe being better out of the competition. There's nobody in Ulster thinks that way. An Ulster title is still very, very coveted, and it's something that sort of every team now at the back end really wants to get. Yeah,
that was definitely evident from the celebrations last year. For Derry, and just looking at Shane McGuigan as well, 2-6 today, impressive for him.
Yeah, it is, and it's the first game probably in quite a while that he's played so close to goal, and and Shea Cullen really struggled to get to grips with him. The runners coming through the middle, and once decent ball was kicked into him, he is really top of his game, and everything he touched turned to gold. And I think that's probably the form that he showed earlier last year. Through the league he's been playing a wee bit more of a drawn out round 11, and as the competition goes on, it just shows how fluid Derry can be. Anybody can drop in at times today. Chrissy McKaigue was in that front line of 5 forwards, and it just shows how hard Derry are to pick up, and the players are so versatile as well that it doesn't really matter. Like Owen McAvoy comes in today, and it technically leaves Derry with 7 defenders, but it didn't matter. It didn't look that way. It looked like Derry had more forwards in Fermanagh, so it just shows how fluid they are whenever they do attack.
And Rory Gallagher once again seriously animated on the sideline. Fermanagh would be his own county, but he doesn't hold back on the celebrations.
Yeah, look, you could tell right from the start that this is a game he really wanted to win. He was really animated, he was really aggressive on the line, and again the players responded to that. And the game looked over at half time, and while other teams and other managers would have rested on the laurels, he sprinted them into the changing room because he wanted them in there, and it just shows how much he wanted to win that game. And the Derry players responded to that today again, and look, he has them where he wants them. They're playing the sort of football that he wants them to play, and if they can just keep developing, it's going to take a very, very good team to beat them again this year.
Brilliant, Conor. Thank you.
Thanks, Ashley.